The Election Commission of India functions. What are the functions performed by Election Commission of India? We'll see that. The first and foremost functions is to supervise voters list, and this list should be free of errors. They should remove the non-eligible and non-existent citizens. After this, you will see that voter list, this is one of the most important functions. Second is determining the timing of election. At what time, in what phases, how many phases these elections will be conducted. In other words, preparing the schedule of election. Like recently, the Bengal election, in which Mamata Banerjee won, it was an 8-phase election. Who decides this? This is the work of Election Commission of India. So this election schedule has the following steps. First, notification. Second, date from which nominations can be filed. Last date of filling the nomination. Last date of security. Last date of withdrawal. Date of polling. Date of counting, and declaration of election. This is all what constitutes the election. Now we'll see that during the entire process of election, Election Commission has the power to ensure free and fair election during the entire process of election. It can postpone or cancel the election in the entire country or specific state or a constituency. Grounds, on what grounds? That the atmosphere was not good and free and fair elections cannot be conducted. It can order re-poll, in which citizens will again vote. It can also order recount. So these are the powers of Election Commission of India, that it can postpone election, it can cancel the election in entire country, specific state or a particular constituency. It can order for re-polling, and it can order for recounting. So these are the different powers of Election Commission of India. This Election Commission of India also grants recognition to the political party and allocate them symbols. Okay. So for example, lotus is the symbol of BJP, hand is the symbol of Congress party. These symbols are granted by Election Commission and they provide recognition to the political parties. Political parties are divided into national parties, state parties, regional parties. So all this kind of recognition is done by Election Commission of India. Now we'll see that Election Commission of India has very limited staff. There are very few people on the permanent payroll of Election Commission of India. So once the election begins, the Election Commission will take the control over the administration. During the election process, the administrative officers of the state and central government are assigned to the Election Commission. They will be on the election related duty, but they will be under the control of Election Commission of India. So Election Commission of India will have full control over these officers during the time of election, but after the time of election there will be no control. Election Commission has complete power of transferring these officers or to stop the transfer and take any kind of action in case they are acting in a biased or non-partisan manner. So over the years, the Indian experience has been that Election Commission has asserted its power to ensure fairness. It has acted impartial, unbiased, and the record of the Election Commission also shows that every improvement in the functioning of the institution does not require any legal or constitutional change. It is widely agreed that Election Commission is more independent and assertive now than 20 years ago. It's not because the powers and constitutional protection of Election Commission have increased, but it has started using more effectively the already allocated powers. Okay, so this was all about the powers of Election Commission of India. Then you will see that Election Commission has faced many difficult situations. Assam, Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir. When in 1991 Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, and in 2002 during the Godhra riots, Election Commission has dissolved and postponed the elections of Gujarat Assembly, and all over it had worked in a very fair and just manner. Now, after seeing the working, composition and performance of the Election Commission of India, we'll move to the another important topic. This topic is related to electoral reforms. What kind of reforms we can do in India to make our elections more fair and transparent, to make institutions related to elections more effective. So, among this all reforms, first reform is related to FPTP, first past the post system. And there is a suggestion that our election method should be changed from FTPT and we should switch over to proportional representation system. What do you think? We should do that or not? Then another recommendations related to electoral reforms is related to women. They should be given one-third seats or reserved seats in parliament and state legislative assembly. Then there is third recommendation to reduce the role of money. Election expenses should be paid by government. Then there is an fourth recommendation that candidates with criminal background should not be allowed to contest elections. Then fifth is there should be complete ban on appeals or campaign based only on religion and caste. Then there should be a law to regulate the functioning of political parties. So if these suggestions are implemented, to a large extent we can reform our electoral process. But these suggestions are there, but there is no consensus over these suggestions. This is the problem. So finally, what we can conclude that free and fair elections can be held only if all the stakeholders, candidate parties, and all those involved in the election abide by the spirit of democratic competition. Till this thing is done, no elections can be free and fair on its own. So finally, we have seen in this chapter that various political institutions, voluntary organizations developed an active functioning watchdog to ensure free and fair election. So eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. This is an important saying that all the stakeholders should be a watchdog in order to ensure free and fair elections of India. So this is a conclusion which you can read on. This is the summary of what we have all discussed. Then these are some exercises which all students should solve it and test what you have gained the knowledge. So in this exercises, these are also the questions 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are very easy questions, and this is the 10th question. And finally, we are completing the chapter 3. Thank you. Have a nice day.